You have shown that thought is limited. But what other instrument of inquiry is available to man? You have shown that thought is limited. But what other instrument of inquiry is available to man? I haven't shown you anything. That's a wrong supposition. We together inquired into the whole nature of thought. Not the speaker has shown something to you and you accept, but rather that together you and the speaker went into the whole question of thought. Not somebody else's thoughts, but one's own thinking. And we live by thinking. Everything we do is thinking, through thought. All our emotions are recognized by thought as bad, good, romantic, and so on. And we went into it fairly sufficiently. Perhaps we should go into it again. Because if one understands this very deeply, what is thought? Not only the thought of the great, so-called great scientists, the great investigators into astrophysics, into archaeology, physics, chemistry, and so on. They expend thought enormously, pursue one thought after another, come to a conclusion, and that conclusion is not correct. They throw it out and go on, thinking. And the villager round the corner, who doesn't know how to read or write, who's never looked at a book, he also thinks. So thought is common to all mankind. Right? And there's no good thought and bad thought, it's still thought. We should now together, you and the speaker, inquire into it. Not I show it to you and then you accept it, which is quite absurd. But if you and K inquire into it, go into it, and if you discover it for yourself as the true, as a fact, then nobody can dislodge your observation, right? Nobody can deny the accuracy of your thinking. So can we go on, explore together? I mean together. That means you have to exercise your brain. I'm saying this most respectfully. Exercise your brain to find out together what is thought. Not thought about something. You understand the difference between thinking and thinking about something. We generally think about something. About my job, about my business, about my wife, about my sex, about so many things. the object of thinking may vary, right? May be different with each person, but thinking, thought, is common to all mankind. That's a fact, right? Common to all mankind. So, we are not talking about the object of thinking. The object, I would like to be happy. I would like to have more money. Or I like to have better car. I wish I could change my wife to somebody else. And so on. Thinking about something. But we're not investigating about something, but rather the whole activity of thought, how it arises, what's the origin, and so on. We are going to go into thinking, not the object of thought. Clear? All right? What do you think? Don't quote me, the speaker. Then you are allowed. What do you think is thought? Is thought a material process? Do you understand my question? Is thought something outside? In certain tribes, thought is always considered something outside. Well, according to the Eskimos, thought is considered something apart from the physical outside. And so on. I won't go into all that. I'm not a scholar. I've observed. I don't read books. I don't go into all that kind of stuff. So thinking can only exist when there is whole background of memory, right? Right? If I have no memory at all, I can't think. Right? Can we go along with this? So I have to inquire why memory, thought plays such an important part in one's life. Memory is based on knowledge, right? I have had an experience of a car accident, and that incident has been recorded, like the tape which is being now recorded. It is recorded by the brain, and that recording is memory of that incident, right? Don't agree with me, just see for yourself. So there is, the function of the brain is to record. And the recording is knowledge. I've had that injury through an accident of a car, and that's recorded as pain, and that remains there recorded. That recording is knowledge. Right? Of course. Next time I drive a car, I'm going to be awfully careful. If you drive a car. So, thought, memory, which is the recording as knowledge, that knowledge is based on that experience of an accident, right? Experience of that car, in that car, which has had an accident, which caused pain, a broken leg. I won't say broken head, and then you are gone. So, experience, then it is recorded, the brain records that experience as knowledge, right? That knowledge is memory, and that memory is the movement of thought. Is this clear? Not clear, my description, your own discovery, your own investigation into the whole business of thinking. That thinking may be distorted, or that thinking may live in illusions, or that thinking may run away with fanciful, imaginative pictures, but is still thinking. And there is obviously no complete experience, right, of anything. So experience is limited. And therefore knowledge is also limited. Because the scientists, as you observe, are adding more and more and more to their knowledge. Right? They never say knowledge is complete, now or in the future. So knowledge, if you observe in yourself, knowledge is always limited, whether in the past or the present or the future. So knowledge is always limited. Right? Do we see that? That's important because if we don't understand the nature of knowledge and what part it plays in our lives, then knowledge becomes one cannot grasp the quality of knowledge. I wonder, are we following each other a little bit, or is it all cuckoo down? You understand? Knowledge is based on experience. It may be thousands of years of experience, but those experiences of 10 years or 100 years or one day is still limited. And therefore, knowledge is limited. Memory is limited. And therefore, thought is limited. Right? Thought is always limited. Are we clear on this matter, or is it all vague? And all our activity is limited too, because based on thought. And so the question is asked, if thought is not the instrument of investigation, you understand, into deeper levels of one's own consciousness, of one's understanding the fullness, the wholeness of life, then what is the instrument if thought is not? You understand the question? All right, can I go? Gosh, you all look so asleep. All right? Thought is necessary. However limited it is, when you go home from here, or take a bus, car, walk, one of these nasty little putt-putts, you have to use thought. You have to use thought in your business. You have to use thought when you fly, when you do anything externally, physically, you have to use thought. And if that thought is not employed, or if thought doesn't express itself clearly, then out of that lack of clarity, there's confusion. So knowledge is always necessary for external activity. Clear? When one goes to the barber to have one's hair cut, you must use thought. When you shave, you must use thought. So, is there another instrument which is not limited, as thought is limited? Is there another instrument which can penetrate into the whole structure, nature of the psyche? The psyche being the self, the whole phenomenon of the self. Is there an instrument apart from thought? Right? What would be your answer? If you have pursued what was said just now about thought, realizing that thought is limited, and therefore when you exercise thought as a means of investigating into yourself, it will always be incomplete. Right? It will always be limited. It will not be holistic. If you see that clearly for yourself, for oneself, then what is the instrument? Or there is no instrument at all. Please go carefully into this. Are we at least together in all this? When you see a tree, that thing that is green outside there, how do you look at it? What's your relationship to that tree? Do you look at it without the word? Or the word is the tree? I wonder if you understand all this. You understand my question? When you look at that extraordinary thing of nature called a tree, which man hasn't created, thank God, and what's your response to it? Is there a verbal response? How beautiful that tree is. And go by. Or can you look at that thing called a tree? The word tree is not the tree, right? Oh, the word which we use to indicate, to communicate with another, that thing which is over there, the word is not the tree, right? The word door behind here is not the thing, is it? So could we say the word is not the thing? The word is merely to describe. But that which is described is not the actual. Don't look so puzzled, please. So, this is important to understand because we are caught in words. We become prisoners to words, slave to words. I'm a Brahmin. Or you are not. I'm a gay. I'm a communist. I'm a congressman. And so on. Words. So when you look at that green thing standing in the garden, do you look at it without a word? Do you look at it without any interference of thought which is limited? Or you are so occupied with your own thinking, with your own problems and so on, you really never look at that tree. Now carry that same thing. Do you look at your wife or husband or your girlfriend, whatever you like, without the word? Without the memory associated with that person? You understand, this is very important to understand. I know you. You've been here. I see several people here. I met a couple of years ago, or 10 years ago. Do I look at them? I'm asking myself, please ask yourself, do I look at them with all the memory of 5 years ago? Of course, he's so and so. Although that would be rather silly if I have to be introduced every time I meet him. But do I carry that memory of meeting that person on the road, which was dirty, noisy, etc., etc. And I carry that memory, and when I see him next time, that memory operates. Therefore, I'm not looking at him afresh. I wonder if you understand this. Are you looking at my face? Huh? And enamored with the face? Or are you really going into this carefully with the speaker? When you look at your wife or husband and so on, you have all the memory, sexual, memory of encouragement, depression, oh, she's a nagging person, and so on, so on, so on. When you look at a person, do you carry all this with you? Huh? Let's be quite simple and honest. Of course we do. Don't we? So you never look at that person at all. Because you've got this memory as a screen, and through that screen you look at people. So there is an observation which is not controlled by words, shaped by words, twisted by thought. And that is the only, I won't like to use instrument, that's the only observation, to look, to observe, without any word. Don't shake your head. This most extraordinary demands this watchfulness. To look, to observe without the word, without your opinions, prejudices, all the activity of thought. To look, to observe. Then that observation, when it is not shaped by thought or driven by thought, then such observation is holistic, whole, not limited, as thought is limited. Is this clear? No, please don't sit here. Don't agree. You can't agree unless you do it. Most of us like to be talked at. We like to attend meetings. It's one of our diseases. And you just listen, agree, disagree, and go off home. We are not in that area at all. What we are saying is extraordinarily important to understand for yourself. The limitation of thought, the memory as recorded of an incident which becomes knowledge based on experience, and all that process is everlastingly limited. The scientists are adding more and more and more. With the last 200 years, they've advanced immensely, adding. And where there is an addition, that which is added to is always limited, obviously. It's not complete. And there is an observation, perception, not only seeing with the visual, optical eye, but also seeing, perceiving, observing without a single movement of thought. And such observation is complete. Now, from that arises another very important question: what is action? The question is not here. I'm putting the question: what is action when there is such complete perception? Do you understand my question? What is action to you? The doing, acting, present participle. The doing. What does it mean? The doing, acting according to a past reservoir of memory, right, knowledge, and you act according to that knowledge, right? I'm not saying anything mysterious, sir. Don't look so glum. Or we act according to a symbol, or according to a preconceived concept, idea, an ideal, right? Acting according to the past, memories, and that action directed by the past, or the future, right? I must do that. Or I act according to my conviction. Or I have an ideal and I have an act according to that ideal. Right? Right, sirs? What? Isn't this so? You all look so frightfully serious. Either you are really serious or you don't understand what I'm talking about. So action is based on the past, memories, knowledge, or acting according to the future. What I must do tomorrow, and therefore I will do this today. You understand? Is there an action which is not based either on the past or on the future? Because the word act, I've just heard the other day the explanation of the word karma, crew, to do. The doing is now, not tomorrow or yesterday. You understand what I'm saying? The doing, the acting. We cannot live without acting. When you get up, that's an act. When you go to your home, that's an act. Not sublime act. So actual action is now. And I'm asking myself, what is the relationship of action to perception, which is holistic? Am I right? Are you putting that question? I don't want to torture you, bully you, force you to anything at all. But this is the ordinary questions. This is the ordinary demand of every human being. So is there an action which is holistic, which is whole, not limited? Because our actions are based on thought. If thought is limited, as it is, then action will be limited. Therefore, it's never, as it's limited, it creates all kinds of trouble. Look, sirs, there's a war going on in the Middle East, in Beirut, in Lebanon. The Jews and the Arabs, right? They are both Semitic people. Do you understand? But 4,000 or 5,000 years of propaganda has made the Jew say, I'm separate from the Arab. Right? All right, I won't go so far. Come nearer, much nearer home. Which is, you are Hindus and they are the Muslims. The Muslims have been, for the last 1,600 years, have been conditioned through repetition, through fear, through conformity, conversion and so on, to believe they are Muslims. And you have been conditioned, programmed for 3,000 to 5,000 years as Hindus. Thought has divided us, right? Not culture. Culture belongs to all humanity, not just Indian culture. I won't go into all that. So, you as a Hindu and the Muslim are at war. Not actually killing each other, but when there is a riot, you burst out your violence. So thought has divided people, right? You understand? I'm French, you are British. Oh, for God's sake, it's all so childish, all this. So, the speaker is saying, don't accept it, question it, doubt it, tear it to pieces, find out for yourself. If there is an action which is completely without division, separation, which is not based on thought, I may, if you'll forgive me, forgive the speaker, if he uses the word, introduces the word love. I'm not talking of physical pleasure, which we call love. That is maybe natural or whatever that is. I don't want to go into this question very deeply because it's a very, very complex thing, what love is. Love is not based on knowledge. Love is not the product of thought. Love is not pleasure, and so on. When there is that quality of love, there is an action which is holistic, which is whole, full stop.